Fuquay Varina used to be the place where we sent first-time buyers and people on a budget who wanted to get into the Raleigh market. It's down here in the southwesternmost corner of the triangle, and while the west side of Wake County is considerably more expensive than the east side, Fuquay has the lowest median home price on the west side. Part of living in Fuquay meant that you were a little bit further removed from a lot of the amenities of the greater triangle area, and because of that, the lower prices were justified. The first home I ever bought was in Fuquay Varina. It was this house. I paid $113,000 for it back in 2001. Isn't it adorable? The median price in Fuquay back then was $135,000, which was 47% lower than Cary's median price of $199,000 at that time. Today, the median price in Fuquay is $425,000, only 19% lower than Cary's median price of $507,000. In today's video, I'm going to talk about what Fuquay used to be like back when it was still a small town before it grew into the big suburb it is today, and how things have changed over the years, including home prices. Is the increase in prices worth it? We're going to find out, and I think today is going to be a really interesting video because you can see the kinds of developments that have had a direct impact on housing prices. First, let's talk about Fuquay's location. Driving to Fuquay from Cary used to take a long time. My husband, the editor, used to be a teacher in Cary when we first moved here, and he commuted to Cary every day from Fuquay. Yes, there used to be fewer cars on the roads back then, but there were also fewer roads. Not only had 540 not been built yet, but the 55 bypass wasn't built either, and the drive was stop and go at a million lights, and you had to go through Holly Springs, and the road was narrow with lots of houses up on the road where people would have to enter into the traffic pattern, gumming things up. So you were often sitting, especially during rush hour. Now, the bypass takes a lot of traffic away from the through road. I know people currently living in Fuquay might find it hard to believe, but the traffic on 55 was worse 15 years ago. The other thing that was inconvenient about Fuquay was that we didn't have a lot of great shopping. Every Saturday morning, I drove to Apex, to Super Target, and Cary to Whole Foods. The only options for groceries in Fuquay at that time were Food Lion and Winn-Dixie. Now, Food Lion was a nice store, and I actually enjoyed shopping there because back then it was staffed by local teenagers. They all knew you. They knew your kids when you went in to do your shopping. There were only about 8,000 people living in Fuquay at the time, but they didn't carry a lot of the products I personally used, so I had to drive. If you wanted something organic, you had to go to Cary. And forget superstores, we had this off-brand Walmart type place called Rose's. Have you ever heard of Rose's? Rose's was like if Walmart and the dollar store had a baby. Walmart seemed downright bougie compared to Rose's. And Holly Springs was even smaller than Fuquay back then. Believe it or not, people who lived in Holly Springs drove to Fuquay to do their shopping. You couldn't just run up to Holly Springs Town Center. It didn't exist. No movies, no Target. The road that it's on didn't even exist. But now Fuquay has changed a lot. There are 5 things I think that you should know about Fuquay today that will help you decide whether Fuquay is worth the price now that it really isn't that cheap. Some of them are good and some not so good. You'll have to tell me in the comments whether you think it's worth the current price tag or not. First, lots of the new construction that's in Fuquay is actually in Harnett County. Here in North Carolina, the address is based on which post office delivers your mail. So if you're looking for a home in Fuquay and you search by the town name, you're going to get a lot of homes that have a Fuquay address, but they're actually in Harnett County, which is a whole different school district. And the thing is that Harnett County has a lot more land to be developed, so a lot of the new construction homes are being built in Harnett. There's nothing wrong with Harnett County, but note that it's a little more country. It's going to feel a lot further away from things, at least I think it does, and Harnett County schools don't generally score as well as Wake County schools do. The other thing about Harnett is the locals may not be as used to or happy about people coming in from big cities. Have you seen this guy on TikTok?
You need to know about visiting North Carolina.
So the first thing you need to know about visiting North Carolina is that the reason I said visit means don't move here. We're full.
He lives in Harnett County. While we do have a decent amount of shopping compared to what it used to be like, if you're from a larger city, you're still gonna have to drive to get to lots of things. This was a comment that someone made on another video I did about Fuquay, and I think it's a really honest perspective.
Ellen, we bought a gorgeous custom-built home. We love it and have no regrets. Great neighbors and great neighborhood. We're just not that jazzed about Fuquay itself. Being from LA, an hour drive anywhere is normal, so we don't mind traveling 30 minutes to North Hills, Raleigh, etc. to shop or go out. Coming from LA, you can feel a bit like you're stranded on an island out here. If they clean the place up and modernize the stores and restaurants on Broad and Main Street, it would be much better. I'm sure all of that modernization is coming soon.
Housing prices are higher, but it's not just that it's high for the same thing. They're building much larger and more upscale homes in Fuquay than they were 20 years ago. Back in 2000 in Fuquay, the average size of a home was 1,700 square feet. Today, the average size is 2,300 square feet. That's 32% larger. Compare that to Cary, who's seen only a 10% increase in the size of homes being built. Cary was already building larger homes for the executives who were moving there to be near RTP, but down in Fuquay 20 years ago, they were primarily building starter homes. Now, with so many more businesses further south than RTP and so many people needing home offices, homes are getting bigger in Fuquay. So you're not just paying more for the same kind of house, you're paying more because you're getting more house. Downtown has gotten a lot better than it used to be. Despite Michael's comment earlier, downtown is actually much better than it used to be, and he might have mostly been referring to the chain stores and strip malls on North Main Street and East Broad Street and not the downtown districts. But in the past, there were no coffee shops in downtown or breweries. And while the food downtown might not be gourmet, there's a lot more of it, and it isn't all fast food. And we've got Chipotle, so there's that. 20 years ago, the only high school in Fuquay was the aging Fuquay High. They tore that baby down and built a whole new school, and they built Willow Spring. Seriously, nobody knows what the real name is. If your family owns half the farmland in Willow Spring and you know which one it is, please share with the people. We really want to know. Anyway, they built the Willow Spring High School, which is brand new. There's also a really popular charter school, Southern Wake Academy, which has a Holly Springs address, but it's really Fuquay as far as I'm concerned. And speaking of Holly Springs, you should really consider Fuquay and Holly Springs the same town. In square miles, Fuquay and Holly Springs combined are about half the size of Cary. So to drive from one side of Fuquay to the other side of Holly Springs is like driving halfway across Cary. So if you live in Fuquay, Bass Lake Park is part of your town, so is the awesome Holly Springs Farmer Market and Ting Park. All of that stuff is minutes away, so don't think it's like some distant town. It's in your backyard. If you like this video, you're definitely gonna like this one where I tell you whether Fuquay is gonna be the next Cary.